Hello everyone! Today, we're going to talk about something very simple, yet versatile. I'm talking about walking. Despite walking being a very common task in animating, it is difficult enough to make your character walk naturally, let alone make it reflect their personality. While you can absolutely use pre-made templates, it's so much more fun to experiment with your character and learn more about body mechanics. In this video, I'll be using Cascadeur to create a simple walking sequence. I'll make sure to guide you step by step from the very beginning. And please don't be intimidated, this video is going to be beginner friendly as well. If you don't believe me, let me introduce you to our colleague, Daria. As an experiment, we asked her to create a walking sequence from the very beginning, without any prior training. We obviously made her do the entire thing again after watching the tutorial. And here's her final result after watching this video. This tutorial's objective is to teach you the basics and give you a pipeline to create your own animations. And since I know that you're going to be so proud of your results once you're done, please do share them on our Discord channel and other social media. You can find the links in the profile and in the video description. All your questions and feedback are very welcome. Now, you ready? First of all, let's upload the character. I'll be using Cassie from the samples. Now you can see the character in the viewport. And I want to divide it into two separate views, so I'll select two viewports. I'm doing this to be able to see the character from different angles. I'm using auto-pausing mode in the first viewport. I'm also going to be looking at the character from the front. I'm turning my character to the side in the second viewport. I'm also selecting the isometric mode by clicking on the center of the view cube. This way I end up with the front and side views. To begin with, let's move the character's feet. I'm selecting the main point of the foot and moving it closer to the center of the grid. So the first pose is the pose of contact. One leg in front, another in back. But if I just drag one leg to the front, then the character's body will start moving with it. In order to avoid this, click on the head and torso's points of direction and lock these points in place by pressing Shift-Z. Now you can bring one leg forward without the character turning with it and move the second leg back. Now let's adjust the feet. I'm slightly lifting the second leg by using the main foot controller. And Cassie is standing on the toes of the back leg now. Moving on to the arms. Arms and legs will be moving in the opposite directions. So if the right leg is forwards, we need to move the right arm backwards. The left arm will be swinging in the front. You can also slightly rotate the torso towards the front leg. And we can turn the hips towards the left leg. This way, we achieve a slight body twist. If you need to adjust the position of the entire torso, it's best to select the pelvis and neck points. I'm also holding down Ctrl to reduce the force of the tool, so I can make very small changes. Half-bent legs might not look very nice, but also please try to avoid fully extended legs. Otherwise, you might end up with the character's knees performing in a weird way. My little trick here is to avoid 180-degree angles in the knees. A little adjustment of 175 degrees instead will make a big difference. Our pose of contact is ready. Now we can move on to the next pose. Let's move to the scene 12 and add a new key. This is going to be the final pose of this step, and it's going to be the same one as our first one, but mirrored. In order to mirror it, I'm going to select all the character's points by double-clicking the main point in the pelvis. Once all the points are selected, we're going to Mirror Tool, and I'm selecting planes YZ in this situation. Now press Mirror on current frame. Now we have two identical mirrored poses. You can quickly navigate between the keys by holding Shift and using A and D buttons. Let's limit our timeline view, and let's add interpolation by choosing Bezier Clamped. Now we have connecting frames between the two main ones. However, at this moment, this movement still doesn't look like a walk. I'll adjust some of the poses on this interval. Let's fix the arms movement first. You can see that elbows are currently bent. This happens due to IK or inverse kinematic interpolation, meaning that the arm point is moving directly from the original to the final position. Let's open the tracks list. You can do it by clicking plus under tracks. By pressing this button, you'll be able to adjust this field to see all the tracks names. Now select the arms track by clicking on it. You can see that selected tracks are outlined. Select this window to choose between IK and FK types of interpolation. Select FK or forward kinematic. Now the character's arms are moving in an arc trajectory. Note the little FK symbol on the timeline. There are two IK and FK buttons on the dashboard, and the first one is responsible for the keyframes. This is not what we're working with right now. IK-FK button for the interval frames is located further by the interpolation selection button. We can again hide our tracks once we fix the arms. And I'm going to create a new key in the middle in the frame number 6. We're going to edit the intermediate pose here. I'll first deactivate the feet points by selecting them and clicking Shift and Z. Our feet is going to be automatically planted on the ground. You can also move it a little bit here. Try to keep a slight bend in the knee. And I'll be slightly lifting the second leg. This leg is in the middle of stepping forward. We can also edit the arms here. For the right arm, I'm going to create less bend in the elbow, and I'll move it back a little bit. I'm holding the control button for a more precise positioning. Now let's take a look at the step we have. This movement is a lot more natural. However, we're still missing some details. Let's add another interval key in the third frame. In this key, I'll adjust the legs. Currently in this scene, the left leg is already moving forward. It will look better if in this frame, it will only start lifting off the ground. To better adjust the positioning, I'm going to be using the ghost mode. Activate the previous ghost state and also the key mode selection. Now we can see where the leg used to be in the first key. In the new key, we need to move it forward. I'm using the main foot controller. And then I'm rotating the foot until it touches the ground. You can move the leg backwards a little bit more, but please pay attention so it doesn't straighten all the way. In order to plant the second foot on the ground, simply deactivate the toe points. This way, our step is even more precise. We can create another key in the final interval. Now I'm lowering the sole of the foot to the ground. Here, make sure that the knee is not too straight. To avoid this, I will lower the character's torso a little bit. Let's look at the movement's trajectory for the second leg. I'm selecting all the frames and the control point on the foot. I'll pin the trajectory display for this interval. Now, let's fix this trajectory. It looks so much better if your foot is following a trajectory of a raindrop. That's why I'm moving the leg in different frames to get closer to this raindrop trajectory. Let's take a look at the animation we've created. And we can save it. Now let's create the second step. But first, let's increase the number of frames. I'm going to select the frames interval that we have, and then scroll my mouse while holding Shift. The new interval needs to be moved in a way so the first key is identical to the last one. Now we need to select all the control points by clicking twice on the torso controller. We need to select all the frames that we've just copied. Now go to Mirror tool and select the planes you need. Now we're mirroring the entire interval. In this case, we ended up with fixed interpolation. It happened because we had the little pin button pressed. However, fixed interpolation doesn't work for my case. That's why I'm gonna go back and undo the previous action, and then I'll make sure that the pin button is not selected. And I'll do the mirroring again. This way, we got the second step. And now we have the entire walking cycle. And as you can see, the first animation frame is identical to the last one. In order to create the full cycle, we need to select all the frames except for the very last one, and then press the button to create the cycle. The cycle frames are going to be outlined in pink. And we can save it. A cycle like this can be easily expanded by simply dragging the last frame in the cycle. Now all the changes applied to the original interval are also going to be reflected in the extended part. For instance, if I create more frames in between keys, then it will affect all the frames in the cycle. Ideally, for the AutoPhysics, we will create more frames. We currently have 32 frames. I will need about 3 cycles, and I will increase the number of frames to 96. This will extend our cycle. The way AutoPhysics works is that it will adjust everything in between the first and the last frame without changing them. In our case, this might not work in the best way for the arm swinging. That's why we've created 3 cycles. This way we can focus on the middle cycle. And this will help avoid the AutoPhysics blending the movement at the end and the beginning of the animation. Now when I have 3 full steps, I'll be able to add AutoPhysics. As you can see, this is not exactly what we're looking for. Our character is jumping for some reason. This happens because we haven't defined the correct fulcrum points. Since our animation is in one place and the feet are constantly sliding along the ground, the foot points are not considered fulcrum points. In order to turn them into fulcrum points, we need to select all the foot points and select the interval. Now go to Object Properties, Fulcrum Point, and increase the max speed. Let's try 10. When you see the green highlight around the foot points, this means they're now considered fulcrum. You can also see how they stop being fulcrum points once the foot is lifted, where both feet are touching the ground are highlighted in green on the timeline, and frames where only one foot is touching the ground are highlighted in yellow. This way we have the correct fulcrum points. Now let's take a look at the physics ghost model. He is now walking correctly instead of jumping. For an easier comparison, I merged my character and the AutoPhysics ghost. This way, I can see even the smallest changes. You can see how the AutoPhysics ghost slightly corrected our character. The ghost moved our character a little bit backwards or forwards in certain moments. Let's open the AutoPhysics tab and look at all the filters. Currently, only one filter is enabled, and it's the main physics corrector. Now let's add the smooth trajectory filter. This filter affects the center of mass trajectory. The bigger the number, the smoother the trajectory is going to be. The best application for this filter is going to be either jumps or acrobatics. I also want to show you the secondary motion filter. Let's turn it on. The secondary motion filter will make the arms swing. You can always play around and adjust the numbers to see how it affects the filter. The bigger the number, the more arms will be swinging. You can adjust these numbers depending on your animation. Just give it a try and decide which one works for you for each and every animation. Now let's snap the character to AutoPhysics. This way, our character will follow everything that AutoPhysics does right now. But before I do this, I need to remove the cycle and turn it into regular frames. In order to do this, use the Remove Cycle button. Now let's snap the character to AutoPhysics. Select the Snap to AutoPhysics button. Before you can apply this, you will get a warning about certain AutoPhysics filters. This way, we'll avoid AutoPhysics overlap. I'm checking the AutoPhysics right now once again, and I see that the AutoPhysics ghost follows the character's movement. Therefore, I can disable it. Now let's check the animation. As you remember, we focused on the middle cycle, and it's the one that has the animation that we need. I will select this middle cycle, and I will also move it to the beginning of the animation. This way, I'll replace some of the frames. And I'll delete the rest of the frames using two keys, Alt and F. And here is the final result. Of course, there is no limit to perfection. This animation included, we can always do more adjustments, but as of now, I'm quite happy with what I have. Do let us know if you'd like to see more tutorials on polishing and animation refinement. This topic is quite extensive, so I'll try to make a separate video about it. Did you manage this walking animation today? If you want to make our team happy, please like this video.